now we come to Egg Rocket Zone. And, well, aesthetically, aside from the boring gray floor and everything, right now it looks really beautiful. Like, I love the sky and everything. Then you get inside and it's pretty much another normal end of the game factory level, but it still looks nice. And I love the music of this place. Like, the build up to it. It just really makes you feel like it's an epic final level. Unfortunately, the level itself is really annoying. This level has one nasty gimmick. That of the time limit that is constantly ticking down on the screen. In order to beat this level, you have to quickly get to the next section of the level within 5 minutes. And once you reach that next section, you have to get there, like the timer resets to 5, instead of just, you know, going back to normal again. And this level isn't really, like, this is another level in Sonic Advance that isn't really designed like a Sonic level. There's not that many fast parts, it's mostly about platforming. And have I mentioned how much trampolines suck? I hate how you have to constantly land on them over and over again for them to launch you high enough. This is why I prefer springs, because springs just launch you to the maximum height with one go. Trampolines, you have to hit them multiple times and it feels like it's padding out the level. Like, this level design, sometimes it can be kind of a maze, because it's not like you're always going right, sometimes you're going left as well. And you have to go left and up, or left and down. And that platform is really dickish. Because if you were so stunned by the fact that you landed on it, and were registering that it was there, that you didn't react in time enough to think, oh, I should jump up to the platform above me, then you're gonna fall down, and then you're gonna be forced to... You'll be forced to redo sections of the level all over again. And that really sucks when you have a constantly ticking down time limit. That's right, this level can be Twinkle Park in 2D form. Because if you fall down certain sections of it, then you'll be forced to redo sections of it that you already did. Which is really obnoxious with a time limit. I mean, I like these things, although they don't feel nearly as satisfying as in Sonic 2. But I love the atmosphere of this place, at least. See, you reach another section, and the bottom section breaks off. And you float up into the air. I guess there's rocket boosters attached to the bottom of the level. And now the timer is reset to 5. So now you got even more time. I like how the gimmicks of the level change aesthetic to match the aesthetic of the level. Like, a lot of the times you'll find the same gimmicks over and over again, like the bouncy platforms, for example. That part of the level is really cheap, because it sends you really quickly into, like, it goes from a speedy part where you're speeding along the ground really fast, and then all of a sudden you're expected to do precise platforming to land on one tiny spring. If I hadn't been Tails there, I would have fallen to my death. You really don't want to be in the bottom route there. And because of that enemy's placement, I had to bounce another time. And my least favorite part of this level, aside from the annoying enemies, is the fact that there's this one dash pad that will send you to the right, and it'll send you all the way back to the very beginning of the level. Because you hit it, and then suddenly you fall all the way down, which really sucks me on a time limit. It's that one right there. If I hadn't been Tails there, I probably wouldn't have been able to make it back here. So that's a really dickishly placed dash pad. I'm pretty sure they knew what they were doing too. But yeah, it's good that the gimmicks change aesthetic depending on the level. Makes it a little more forgiving that they're reusing them. This level has some gimmicks of its own, like it has the rolling pin platforms that have spikes on them, so you have to carefully time when you jump into them. Of course, it also has these really annoying enemies I'm not really sure when the proper time. I guess you're supposed to jump into them when they fire those purple energy balls, but at that moment it doesn't seem safe to do so. And plus, there's yet another flying enemies that have projectile attacks, which means you're forced to jump into the projectiles if you want to try to attack them. Look, a moving background! Like, that's pretty cool. You're very clearly in outer space now, and most Sonic levels don't have backgrounds that actually move. Although I kind of prefer that because it can be visually distracting, but it's not that big of a deal. I like the background here, although I preferred the orange sunset sky from earlier. And these enemies are also annoying. Like yet another flying enemy that shoots projectiles downwards. It's especially annoying when they're on the ceiling. And look! Anti-gravity gimmicks! This is great spike placement. Thanks, game. Isn't it great that if you don't land on that spring at just the right time, then you're doomed to hit that spike. I don't really like anti-gravity gimmicks in platformers because it's kind of hard to adjust to the different controls. Like, or sometimes the controls aren't different and you have to adjust to that. Although at least it's not in a 3D game where the camera is also a huge problem. Really, the only problem I have with anti-gravity gimmicks in 2D Sonic games most of the time is that sometimes you can end up falling upwards into spikes, and on rare occasions, you can actually fall up to your death. Oh, great spike placement, game, thanks. I love it when spikes randomly rise out of the floor, especially when they're right next to a large enough row of spikes. Like, wasn't it kind of unnecessary having yet another spike rise up there? And with no warning on the floor that it would have risen up from there. And I don't like how those previous platforms, you couldn't enter them from the bottom. Like, a lot of platforms, especially these ones, you can't enter them from the bottom. Try doing this with Amy. Try doing this with Amy Rose. You have to spin dash up the wall and jump off at exactly the right time with enough momentum in order to land on those platforms. Good luck doing that with Amy. I was lucky I managed to even beat this level with her. And this has to be so fucking picky. No, it's not good enough that you land on the red spring. Oh no. You have to land on it at exactly the right time and exactly the right way, and only then can you beat the level. This has a completely different aesthetic to it. I think it's supposed to be in cyberspace. Not really sure why, but it has a pretty nice background to it. And also has a faster paced theme. And I was surprised to learn that I preferred this theme over Act 1's. Because this is actually the version of Egg Rocket Zone's theme that they use in Sonic Pinball Party. Like, I was expecting Act 1 because for the most part, Sonic Pinball Party uses the Act 1 versions of themes. But for the most part, aside from the removal of the annoying 5-minute time limit, this level isn't really that different. It has a much greater focus on anti-gravity gimmicks. There's the same annoying enemies as before. And you've got the problem of the conveyor belts. And look at this part. This part is really cheap. You have to land on the spring at a very specific time. Because if you land on the spring at the wrong time, then not only will you fail to jump over the spikes, but, which is especially frustrating because there's only one spike there and it shouldn't be that hard to dodge it. But not only do you have to avoid the spikes, but you can't go too far to the right after hitting that spring, or you'll run straight into that enemy. That is such a dickishly placed enemy. Why does it have to be right there? I mean, I know it's the final level of the game, so it's supposed to be challenging, but still, this isn't exactly a level I want to replay. As you can see, there's a much greater emphasis on the anti-gravity gimmicks. Although, the gameplay is not really that different. You're still essentially doing the same things as before, only you're on the ceiling. And so, you have to adjust to that. It's definitely a platformy level. There isn't really that much in the way of speed. So again, is like a Mario level. Like, aside from, sometimes you spin dash up slopes, but for the most part, I feel like Sonic Advance is a lot more leaning towards Mario than classic Sonic design. Which is weird because, again, Sonic Pocket Adventure was made by people, like the people who worked in Sonic Pocket Adventure would later join DIMS. So why didn't they hire those people to make this game? Because this is awkward. Why does there have to be so many spikes? Why does there have to be so much waiting around on platforms to jump to the next platform? I know it's a platformer, but still. This isn't really Sonic-like. I mean, I don't like the placement of those enemies because it's such a low ceiling. And so either you gotta spin dash over them, or you can't go fast at all. Oh look, a fast section sent me to my death. Lots of bottomless pits here as well. I'm pretty sure that this is another level that I rage quit and ended up playing through as Tails. And it really is annoying that when you start a character campaign from any particular level, you always start out with 3 lives. And because of the screen crunch, it's kind of hard to tell that you're going to drop into spikes. I do like this part though, it's pretty fast, but it's entirely automated. And I don't like this boss at all. Oh, I do like the fact that it has a new theme to it, but it kind of feels like it's trying too hard to make Eggman ominous and threatening. And Eggman, he's kind of a villain that you can't really play straight, like have me take him seriously because he's too cliche. There's not enough to him. That ring just fell right through the boss. That's one of the biggest problems with this boss fight, is that the rings will always fall right through the balls that the floor is made out of instead of bouncing off them. So unless you immediately collect the rings, there's no opportunity to get them back. I'm not really sure how you're supposed to consistently get Eggman to be hittable. I think if you jump on top of the balls enough, you cause Eggman to be able to flip over. But I don't know if you have to jump on the balls from far enough away, or from a specific distance away from him. Because I know for a fact that you can't just wait for him to flip over on his own. That's not really how it works. Something cheap about this boss is that he shoots projectile attacks, as well as expecting you to jump into him. But because those projectiles are shot above him, it can be easy to get hurt. It can also be easy for him to... It can be easy to land on either projectiles or the spikes when you've just jumped into him and are trying to land on the floor. Which is why Tails is the best option for this boss fight. I think the reason that I didn't beat Amy's campaign until very recently was that it was just too difficult to beat this boss with Amy. Because the annoying thing is you can't attack the boss with Amy's hammer by just standing still. Because her hammer won't attack him at all for some reason. You gotta jump into him and then hit him with your hammer. I don't like this boss. Never have, never will. At least the Insta-Shield makes it easier to hit him from the ground. But it's like you jump into him and then you bounce back. So it's not like you can take advantage of the fact that you jumped into him and then just fall through the chain. It's kind of easier to get hit by the ball and chain here. I do like the fact that they bothered to make GBA remixes of the classic Sonic boss fights though. Like, that's pretty cool. I mean, this is definitely a lot better than having an entire boss rush. Because that's just padding out the game. It's especially annoying if you don't like the boss fights to begin with. These are the same boss fights that we fought in the classic games, but at least they're new for this game. Plus they die really quickly anyways, so... Something I haven't mentioned yet about this game is that in the classic Sonic games, when you get a speed up power up, the music only speeds up by 1.5 times. This game, the music speeds up by double the amount. So like it goes to double the speed. And that can kind of make the songs kind of hard to deal with. Like a lot of the sound, like Secret Base 2, the theme of Secret Base Act 2, it really doesn't sound good sped up because it sounds too fast. Anyways, I really don't like this boss fight. It's entirely random and unpredictable what attack he'll do, and he becomes vulnerable for such a tiny amount of time that it's really hard to react in time to jump into him. By the time that you register that he's vulnerable, you've already gotten hit by his attack. And so, I just hate how random and unpredictable this boss fight is. Ironically enough though, Amy completely breaks this boss wide open. Because Amy doesn't have to worry about jumping into Eggman because she jumped too early or something. So she can just jump right in front of him and attack him without jumping into him. So you don't really have to predict what attack that you do. Like, I just absolutely hate this boss for how random and erratic it is. You can't predict which attack he'll do, and every attack is a different method of dodging it. But he attacks so quickly that you can't consistently deal with them. Like, how was I supposed to avoid that? So, if you're going to fight this boss, fight it with Amy. Like, see how easy it is to get hit? Although something I'm proud of is that I once managed to beat this boss in like 20 seconds. Because he would do his arm claw attack, and I would just... He's vulnerable for a much longer time when he's doing that arm claw attack. So I would just constantly attack him with my hammer while he was vulnerable, and I would just hit him again and again and again. And when I got hit, I would just recollect my ring and take advantage of invincibility frames. And I would just beat him in like 20 seconds. It was really awesome. This ending is the same no matter what character you play as. Usually Tails is the one, like if you play as Sonic, Tails is the one flying the plane. But if you beat the game as Amy or Knuckles or Tails, Sonic is the one flying the plane. I mean, I know that it's his plane, but isn't it Tails who usually flies the planes? It really makes it obvious that the other character campaigns are just wish fulfillment for them. Because they're finally getting Sonic's approval by beating... Like, they're finally getting Sonic's approval by becoming the hero of their own story. But of course it's not actually canon, because if it was, then that would be Tails flying the plane. And, you know, it really kind of invalidates to me the fact that all of the characters are playable and potentially useful in the story. Because in canon, only Sonic went through the adventure. It's not like all of the characters did something to help. It's not like all of the characters were useful. It's not like Adventure 2 where every character did something in the plot to be useful. In this game, only Sonic's campaign is actually canon. So even though Amy can potentially make herself useful by going through the levels, canonically she didn't actually do that. So it doesn't really matter. So that was Sonic Advance. I'm gonna show off what happens when you get all of the Chaos Emeralds in the extra video, but for now, it's over. This was the main 2D Sonic game that I played when I was a kid. So naturally I played way too much of this. I don't really think that this is as good of a game as I used to think it is. Because it takes your Sonic instincts and uses them against you. I don't feel like the level design is quite the same that it was in the classic games. It's awkward. Like, it's too platformy, it feels more like Mario than Sonic. I mean, it still has a lot of fast parts in it. It's definitely a lot faster than Sonic 2 ever was. Like, every single level has fast parts in it. The problem is that there's a lot of cheap enemy placement that you can easily run into. And there's a lot of things about it tend to annoy me. I do like the fact that this feels like a natural progression from Sonic 3 Knuckles, in that there's an extra playable character in the form of Amy, and there's still classic era elements, there's still mostly classic era physics. This is kind of what Sonic 4 should have been, but the problem is that the level design is still really awkward, and ultimately, it doesn't really match up to the classics. I mean, it does a much better job with the save system than Sonic 3 Knuckles did, but that's really the only compliment I can give it over that game.